Hi everyone, this is Migs from Sneaks and Ball PH, and today we have the full performance review on the Nike KD15. Before we get started, if you do like the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you have any comments, questions, or any suggestions for future videos, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below as well. Then also make sure to leave a link to the SNBPH Facebook group down below, because that is a place where we talk about sneakers and basketball quite a bit, and it's also where we have the SNBPH Steel Cabinet, where I, as well as a lot of our other members, take some shoes that we no longer use and put them up for bidding at way below market value. Then if you haven't already, please do make sure to sub to the channel because it really does help us out quite a lot. Then with that being said, we do finally have the full performance review on the Nike KD15. I honestly did take a little bit longer to fully test out these shoes than I usually do, and it's mostly because of the fact that as a KD shoe, it was pretty narrow and pretty snug, especially right out the box. Given how snug the shoe was at first, and given that there is also a plastic cage on the shoe, it was a little bit uncomfortable when I first tried these out on court, so I really had to break them in first before I was able to really gather my thoughts or make an opinion on how the KD15 performs. We were able to get through it though, and after breaking these in, I really did have fun in them, and I do think that if you have a narrow foot or you're willing to go up half a size, this will be a really great option if you're in the market for a low-cut basketball shoe. Like I said, I did enjoy playing in these a lot, and I would highly recommend them. But to see why and to get into more detail, let's start off with the traction. The traction on the KD15 does make use of a data-driven or sort of topographic pattern, which does make use of a lot of concentric, rounded shapes. You also do have solid rubber from heel to toe, and the rubber itself is pretty soft and tacky. After testing these out for the past few weeks, that traction really did do its job well. I mean, for one, it did grip the court really well and had a really strong bite, and it also had you covered with all your movements, whether you were going forward or backward or side to side. Second, it also didn't pick up a lot of dust. I mean, I did take these out to quite a few different courts, and the pattern itself and how it's spaced really didn't allow a lot of dust and dirt to get kicked up in the traction pattern. Then third, even if I am the type of person that really doesn't care whether their traction squeaks or not, if you are one of those people that care for those, just know that it does have a pretty good squeak to it as well. Given those three things, the traction overall is just really good. However, I do have one issue with the traction, and that would be the long-term durability, especially if you play on outdoor courts. Like I mentioned in the unboxing on the KD15, my pair did come with an XTR outsole. However, after playing in these for a while, I can clearly see that even if it does have an XTR outsole, the fact that the rubber is very soft and very shallow and very thin will just make these wear out pretty quickly if you play outdoors. For indoor use though, these are just very good, so if you play mostly on wooden indoor courts, then I think you'll be very satisfied with the traction. So overall, for the traction on the KD15, I'm gonna have to give it an 8. Then moving on to the cushion, the Nike KD15 does have a full-length zoom stroble unit within a soft injected phylon midsole. When I did first start playing in these, it did feel a little bit stiff and the front of the shoe did seem to slap the floor, and I think it is because of that plastic piece that they put on the cushion that did make the shoe a little bit hard to flex, especially when it was brand new. After breaking in that cushion though, it did feel a lot smoother and you could really just sort of move around freely, and I was also able to fully feel that zoom stroble. I'm definitely a fan of most shoes that use a zoom stroble, and the KD15 is no exception because it really gives you that bounciness and responsiveness that's right underneath your foot. There really isn't anything different with the zoom stroble on the KD15 compared to other shoes, so if you are like me and you really enjoy that kind of setup, then you know what to expect with the KD15. Then for the foam on the KD15, it does make use of some sort of pylon, and I don't think it uses Cushlon like the previous shoe, which definitely could be a bummer from some people that really enjoyed the KD14. But the trade-off in replacing that Cushlon with just your regular injected pylon is that the cushion on the KD15 feels lighter, and it also feels a lot more responsive and stable. So in the end, I think it is more of a preference thing if you like the more mushy or pillow-like cushion on the KD14, or if you want something a little bit more stable and lightweight like the KD15. So overall for the cushion, I'm gonna have to give the KD15 an A. Then moving on to the materials, the KD15 makes use of a lot of different textiles throughout the upper, with your multi-layer mesh here at the forefoot and midfoot, your foam back mesh here at the tongue, and that smooth and fine-grained textile here at the heel. Don't really have a lot of major complaints with the materials. They do get the job done and are pretty comfy on foot, and they also don't really need any break-in time. The materials also overall just feel a little bit better in hand than the materials last year on the KD14. The materials on the KD15 are also very breathable and move well with your foot, and also do have some pretty decent padding. It isn't perfect though, and I do have a few tiny qualms with the materials. For one, I think it could have been a little bit more padded, especially here at the heel, because even though it does have a bit of padding, I think they still could have put some more, just to make it even more comfortable around your foot. The other thing is also pretty minor, and you can definitely have professionals do it for you, but the KD15, as I predicted, gets dirty pretty easily and is pretty hard to clean. The smooth textile here at the heel of the shoe is definitely the main culprit. As you can see from my shoe, it is pretty dirty here on the medial side, and it will definitely take quite a bit of effort to get that really clean and looking as good as new. Overall though, even though the shoe doesn't really make use of a lot of premium materials, and even if it is a bit hard to keep clean, I think the comfiness, the breathability, and the fact that you don't really have to break the materials in make the upper on the KD15 a pretty solid one. So for the materials on the KD15, I'm gonna give it a B+. Then moving on to the support of the shoe, even though the KD15 has a pretty low cut, Nike did manage to put a lot of support features all around to make the KD15 an overall supportive shoe. Throughout my time playing in the shoe, I never really felt any instability, and I always felt pretty planted on the ground and pretty secure on the footbed of the shoe. Then like I said a while ago, Nike was able to put quite a few support features on the KD15, starting off with that nice and flat outsole that does get a little bit wider here at the forefoot and heel for stability. Then for your torsional support, you do have your plastic midfoot shank plate here at the midfoot to keep your foot from under or over pronating. Then moving on to the midsole and the upper, you do have this plastic cage here on the lateral and medial side of the shoe, which not only helps keep your foot locked into the shoe, but also keeps your foot on the footbed on those violent side-to-side movements. To help in that as well, that pylon foam does come up quite a bit on both the lateral and medial side, and you also have a sturdy plastic internal heel counter. Then to keep the shoe stable as well on heavy heel strikes or awkward landings, you have this plastic here on the lateral side where the zoom strobel is, and you also have this rubber that comes up to the midsole here at the heel, which keeps the foam from compressing too much. However, the support on the KD15 isn't perfect. I do feel like it lacks a little bit of arch support because my midfoot did get a little bit strained if I played in these for a really long time. It isn't much of an issue though because I only really felt it once I played for more than a few hours. But if you are someone who needs a little bit more arch support, then there's always aftermarket insoles. So overall, for the support on the shoe, I'm gonna have to give the KD15 an A. Then moving on to fit and sizing, I did go true to size with the KD15, and it's definitely a little bit on the narrow and snug side. As with all KDs, the KD15 does fit pretty narrow, but I did get away with going true to size because I was willing to break these in. However, if you do have a normal width foot like me and you don't want to go through that entire break-in process, then I think it's much easier if you go up half a size. Likewise, if you do have a wide foot, going through to size with this is definitely a no-go. So hopefully if you have a wide foot, you can try these out in store because I think wide footers should go at least up half a size or maybe even a full size up. Then if you have a narrow foot like KD, then this is definitely a shoe that seems to be made for you because you can go through to size with no issues. Then for the lockdown, it was very good here at the forefoot and the midfoot, especially with that plastic cage. And the only real issue I had with the lockdown is here at the heel, and I'm not really sure if it was the lack of padding or because the liner was too soft, but I really didn't feel as locked into the heel as I wanted to. I mean, my heel never really popped out of the shoe and it wasn't like egregious or anything, but it is just a tiny thing that you might also be able to notice. Aside from that though, the lockdown on the rest of the shoe is really nice, and if you do get the right size for your foot, then you'll be pretty comfy and locked in. So overall, for fit and lockdown, I'm gonna have to give the KD15 a B+. Then moving on to the overall aesthetics, as you guys know if you watched my unboxing of the shoe, I wasn't the biggest fan of how the shoe looked overall, especially in this lime green colorway. Over the past few weeks though, the aesthetics have been growing on me a little bit, and some of them were actually fans of the design and even this particular colorway. I guess for the overall look of the shoe, it is super subjective and it's a hit or miss, because there are some who are really fans of the design and some who just hate it and won't even give it a chance. As of now, I still wouldn't wear these off the court because I just think it looks pretty weird. But on the court, especially in the newer colorways that are coming out, I think they look pretty decent to maybe a little bit above average. So overall, given that I am pretty lukewarm on how the shoe looks overall, I'm gonna have to give the overall aesthetics on the KD15 a B+. Then moving on to the price, the Nike KD15 retails for 8,095 pesos here in the Philippines, or $150 US. The Nike KD15, as we have gotten accustomed to with the previous KD releases, is sort of in the middle or in the sweet spot of Nike's signature shoe line. It's definitely not as affordable as the Nike PG6, but it also isn't as expensive as the Nike LeBron 19, which I think gives you a pretty nice value proposition. For the price that these retail for, you do get a signature shoe from one of the best players of our generation, really grippy traction that is perfect if you play indoors, very nice deck in the cushion with that zoom strobe unit, comfortable materials that require no break-in time, a plethora of support features that really keep you safe and secure, a perfect fit for those who have narrow feet, or for those who go up half a size, and a pretty nice aesthetic and design if you like the overall shape and you find a colorway that works for you. The big question for me though, and I think a lot of other people, is this a worthy upgrade from the KD14? So my suggestion would be that if you want a low-cut shoe, or a shoe that has a more stable and lightweight cushion setup, or a better feeling upper, then go for the KD15. But if you want a shoe that has more of a plush and marshmallow feeling cushion, or a shoe that has a bit more heel lockdown, then go for the KD14. So overall for the price, I'm gonna have to give the KD15 an A. So there you have it guys, that was my full performance review on the Nike KD15. Once again, if you do like the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already yet, please do make sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon for notifications. And as always, whether you're looking for that retail win or you're trying to force a trade to either Miami or Phoenix, just keep on hunting.